Well, the story is getting much, much more complicated hour by hour as we continue to talk. The French came out and said, okay, cool. If President Putin and President Obama are going to come up with a deal, and President Assad, I guess is his title, al-Assad of Syria is willing to make a deal, then we're going to put forward a proposal in the Security Council and for the entire United Nations on the assumption that this time Russia and China won't veto it. But the proposal that the French put together had a little thing in it that basically said that, you know, if the Americans didn't like it, they could still bomb Syria. So the Russian foreign minister said, you got to take that thing out. And so now there's basically, I mean, this is what's called negotiating, right? But the backstory to this is fascinating. When I signed off the air yesterday afternoon, I suggested, we had just talked with former Congressman Bob Ney, who's now a reporter with the Talk Radio News Service, who reported that John Kerry's comment about, well, gee, you know, if the reporter asked John Kerry, what could Syria do that would cause you not to bomb them? And he said if within a week they got rid of all their nuclear weapon or all of their chemical weapons and put them under the control of, you know, international bodies, then we would stop. We would withdraw our commitment to bomb them. My phrase, not his. I mean, I'm paraphrasing obviously here. And so immediately, two things happened. One, the foreign minister for Russia comes forward and says, "Hey, good idea. Let's ask Assad if he will, you know, as the president of Syria, if he'll go along with this." And within minutes of that, the foreign minister of Syria tweets out, "Yes, we'll do this." And then the White House says to some of the reporters, and this is what Bob Ney had reported on our show yesterday, just a few minutes after it happened, that Secretary of State Kerry's comments were basically shooting from the hip, that he didn't have the authority to say that he was speaking in metaphor, not making an actual offer. And so as we were going off the air yesterday afternoon in the 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time hour, I was saying, so call the White House comment line and let them know what you think. And when I got off the air, and somebody in the chat room said they're closed for the day. I was like, what? It's going to be a joke, right? So we get off the air at 6 o'clock, and I dial 202-456-1111, the White House comment line. And sure enough, there's a recording going, sorry, we're closed for the day. Call back between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Time, as I recall. In fact, did you record that, Shannon? No, you missed it. Okay, no problem. Anyhow, it was hysterical. It was like, oh, I can't believe this. But in any case, the message got out, and so what was happening was, like, you know, the left was organizing around this, saying, okay, let's push Obama to do this deal that Kerry seems to have inadvertently and perhaps even stupidly offered. Not stupidly, but, you know, unthinkingly. And then, you know, I go home and I start digging into this thing. And I saw this interview with Gwen Ifill on PBS that Obama did, where she says, basically, she's asking the question, you know, is this something that just popped virgin fresh to the world out of John Kerry's mouth earlier today, or did you and President Putin talk about this back last week when you guys were hanging out at the G20, in that private meeting you guys had? And, well, here's the conversation.
Now we're hearing news that Russia has a plan, a solution perhaps, which would allow Syria to take all of its weapons and put it under international control. Is that something that you've had any conversations at all with President Putin about when you were in St. Petersburg last week?
I did have those conversations, and this is a continuation of conversations I've had with President Putin for quite some time.
Oh, here's a conversation I've had with President Putin for quite some time. Yes, we talked about it back a week ago at the G20. In other words, Republicans, you've been punked. I mean, this obviously would not be the first time that a Secretary of State has had a reporter ask a question that the Secretary of State knew was coming and had an answer ready for, or perhaps even encouraged a reporter to ask and had an answer ready for. The right wing last night, Hannity and Coulter and whatnot, they went off on this thing, and I didn't see this. Shana was telling me about it a few minutes ago, but I just hit a certain threshold where I can't handle it anymore. Shane has much more intestinal fortitude than I when it comes to Fox. And anyhow, he said basically that Hannity's meme was, and Ann Coulter's was, oh, look at this. This is making Putin look strong and making Obama look weak. Right. It's making the Republicans look like, to me, like they've been had. They've been punked. We'll see how this plays out, and we'll see how much there is there, and we'll see what the president has to say tonight. But if John Kerry just blurted something out, then why is the president saying, yeah, President Putin and I have been talking about this for a while? I mean, in fact, this is a New York Times article that pretty interesting. New York Times article says, quote, Mr. Lavrov, now that's the Russian foreign minister, the guy who initially responded to Kerry. He's the equivalent of Kerry's Secretary of State. He's kind of the Russian Secretary of State. Mr. Lavrov said he had discussed the proposal with the Americans before announcing it at a hastily arranged briefing on Monday evening. Mr. Obama and Mr. Putin discussed the idea privately on the sidelines of last week's summit of the Group of 20 Nations, and Mr. Lavrov discussed it with Secretary of State John Kerry. Really? Now, all over Washington, D.C., I guarantee you, or all around America, as all the Republicans might not be back in town here yet, all the legislators, but they're going, oh, really? So, what, basically, it looks to me, and I could be wrong, and time will tell, but this is starting to look more like three-dimensional chess. And the closer we get to the implementation of Obamacare, I'm increasingly thinking that that's three-dimensional chess, particularly with the 2016 escape clause that allows Vermont and Montana to go single payer. That's built into Obamacare. It's increasingly looking to me like either Obama said to Putin or Putin, either Obama said to Putin, hey, I got a problem, I made this statement, and I got to play a Kennedy clip for you after the break, where Kennedy made basically the same mistake that led to the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Obama says, I got this problem, and I don't want to have the Cuban Missile Crisis. And can you help me out? And or Putin came to him and said, I think I can bail you out here. Whichever way it happened, I don't care, and I just think it's brilliant that these two guys got together a week ago and gameplayed this thing to avoid a war or avoid the superpowers, either one of the two superpowers, involving themselves directly in this civil war that's going on in Syria, which, as we've been discussing, is something that's going to be affecting, shall we say, the interests of both nations significantly. And war would be the worst thing for it. 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So the question of the day, I suppose, did Putin and Obama outsmart the Republican Party? Or is that just too cute by half?